So very good morning to all of you. So first I thank Professor Singh and Technopark team for inviting me to this Technology Day celebration. So in this today's talk I will talk about mainly what are the various water remediation technology in India and what is their present and future. So if you see these words 10 problems for next 50 years, then you can see water is one of them. And then if you see this, how this population is changing with time, you can see this today we are around 8 billion, in 2050 is expected 9 to 10 billion, and then 2100 will be 11 to 10 billion. So you can see population is increasing. So we have to come up with some technological solution so that these 10 problems which UN has identified, they can be taken care. And also United Nations in 1977, they told already that everyone has the right to have access of drinking water, and in quantities and qualities with their basic need. So now we talk about how much water is available. So you can see this you can see there is plenty of water, there is sea water, but only more than 97% of the water of the earth is saline, and out of this 3% which is left over here, over 69% is locked up in ice and glaciers, and 30% is in the ground. So only you can see whatever we can use is only 1%. So remaining 1% is surface and other fresh water. So out of this 1% water, there is again we can see very small amount is available for the surface water to use. So this can be used for drinking purpose, for industrial purpose, for irrigation, and of course for using hydroelectricity can be also generated. So now United Nations has identified 17 sustainable development goals. So water is one of them. So you can see sustainable SDGs number 6, that is focused on water. So that goal says that ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. So this data shows that with the time you can see here this how much water demand is going to increase in 2050. So this is, you can see the measure of the water that is required, that is for the agricultural use, and others are remaining uses for drinking purpose and industrial purpose. And then there is another data which also shows that per capita water availability in India. You can see this water, our population is increasing in India. You can see 2050 around 1.6, we are going to be 1.6 billion population, and then you can see the water resources which is available, per capita water availability is also decreasing. So then of course there are challenges how to surpass this problem of water scarcity. So these are very recent data, Niti Aayog report in 2018. Then you can see this in India itself, you can see the 54% of India faces high to extremely high water stress. So most of the areas in India, those are under stress. So if you talk about now water pollution and its resources, so anything, any chemical, biological or physical changes in water, that quality that are harmful effect on the living organisms or makes water unsuitable for desired uses. So basically you can see water pollution sources are mainly heavy metals. These are like arsenic, cadmium, chromium, lead, mercury. There are some industrial discharges that also discharge into river bodies. We have emerging pollutants like pharmaceutical compounds, pesticides, lot of pesticides usage is there by farmers to increase the productivity of the crop, and of course we have mining wastewater and then some industrial additives, those are being added. And now we talk about, there are two categories of water pollutants. First is inorganic. So mainly inorganics comes from the heavy metals. So this is again a roadmap. You can see how this water is contaminated with heavy metals. So major of the India you can see like fluoride, manganese, arsenic, chromium. So these are the areas which are affected by these heavy metals in India. If you talk about heavy metals, apart from the skin diseases that is very common, like we have arsenic that has carcinogenic in nature, we have mercury that causes kidney damage, we have lead that causes brain damage, we have cadmium that causes kidney again damage, and chromium again causes diarrhea and other. So you can see all these, most of these heavy metals are carcinogenic and they have health impact in the longer run. So this is a recent report then that says that 75% of the river monitoring stations in India, so you can see 75% of the rivers are contaminated with these heavy metals. So now we talk about organic pollutants. So major of these organic pollutants come from the tannery industries, mainly this, you can see all these dyes, chromium that is coming, dye processing, mainly textile industry, they also discharge a lot of dyes. Then we have emerging pollutants, as I mentioned earlier, like pharmaceutical and personal care products. Then of course, apart from that also we have direct human waste disposal, oil spillage, and these agricultural practices. So all these pollutants, they lead to water pollution in general. So these are some images you can see. These are quite disturbing, that most of the rivers in India, these are urban rivers, these are, you can see these are already polluted. So like in this CPCB report, that this Coim river in Chennai is the most polluted river in India. Then second most polluted river is Sabarmati. And then of course Yamuna river, there was a lot of news in media that is having pollution about the ammonia. So you can see now there are also many reports in media also. So they also say, like in Hyderabad we have this Musi river that is also polluted. We have of course Delhi news that this is polluted from the ammonia. Then Chipra rivers in MP. So most of the rivers, they are polluted because of this or these pollutants. So because of this pollution problem, now we have seen that these causes water pollution, lot of these waterborne diseases. So this is the year-wise data for waterborne diseases in India. You can see this number is increasing heavily. Because of this water pollution, you have health hazard problem like diarrhea, cholera, all those diseases are there. So you can see around 37 billion Indians, they are affected by waterborne diseases, and these causes like cholera, acute diarrhea diseases. So you can see this, because of this water pollution, there are many diseases are coming up, and after this diarrhea, you can see this followed by hepatitis, typhoid and cholera. So most of the areas affected is the UP, West Bengal, Assam, Odisha and Madhya Pradesh. So why these waterborne diseases are still rampant in India? So because large proportion of the people do not have access to clean water within the house, and these are increasing the chances of infection. And the surface water are highly contaminated in India, as we have seen in the previous slides. So poor sewage disposal mechanism leads to most of the sewage being drained into the rivers, and that reservoirs for the microbial contamination. And then this poor water sanitation and hygiene. These practices lead to high instances of waterborne diseases in India. So these are the major causes for how this water problem is happening, and because of these diseases are still rampant in India. So now we'll talk about, we have seen now problems, and now we'll just see how this government has taken some initiative to tackle some of these problems. So majorly two ministries. So earlier we have this Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, started in 2011, and then we have later Department of Water Resources, River and Development and Ganga Rejuvenation. So these are in July 2014. So now these two ministries are under this Ministry of Jal Shakti, that started in 2019. So if you talk about this ministry, they have focused on sustainable development. So their focus was on quality maintenance and efficient use of water resources. So these are the major initiative they have taken for this in this domain. So like National Water Mission 2011, then we have Dam Rehabilitation and Improvement Program 2012. We have very popular Namami Gange, so that aims to abatement of pollution and conservation and rejuvenation of national river Ganga. And then apart from that also we have Atal Bhujal Yojana, flood management program, and they are also heavily investing also in terms of R&D in water area. For this ministry, their role was more focused towards rural areas like drinking and sanitation. So out of this, government started Swachh Bharat Mission in 2014. So that again aims to open defecation free behavior, to encourage cost effective and appropriate technologies for ecological safe and sustainable sanitation. And then very recently 2019 government started Jal Jeevan Mission. So that means Har Ghar Jal. So that aims to provide potable water in adequate quantity to every rural household through tap water and connection by 2024. So we will talk more about now National Water Mission. So apart from, so in general they have divided, so this is comprehensive water database, climate change impact on water. So they are collecting data, and then they want to promote also citizen and state action for water conservation, and then focus attention to vulnerable areas including overexploited areas, and they want to increase water use efficiency by 20%, promotion of basin level integrated water resource management. So these are their targets they want to achieve during this next few years. So this Jal Shakti Abhiyan that started in 2019 and then 2023. So the idea is to catch the rain where it falls and when it falls. So government is also now promoting how we can conserve more water. Whatever the water is coming, how we can produce it and then can be used for general public. So that aims at saving and conserving rainwater under the scheme, source sustainability for drinking water in monsoon and pre-monsoon periods using dams, water harvesting pits, rooftop rainwater harvesting system. And then another scheme is Sahi Fasal, that is again they started in 2019. So there again aim is, so if in India we already have seen earlier that around 85 to 89% of water is used for agricultural purpose and 5% used for drinking and other domestic purposes. So their aim is to nudge farmers to favor agricultural crops, so which consume less water and to use water more efficiently. So lot of water is wasted in agriculture because just farmer they don't have any information how much water is to be fed. So they just fill their farm to full, and that is just again a wastage of water. So again that government is trying to nurture them, help them with using various information system so that they can use how much water amount is available and they can use accordingly. Next scheme is Har Khet Ko Pani, that again they started 2015. So their aim is again to enhance tank storage capacity, groundwater recharge, increase availability of drinking water by repair, renovation and restoration of water bodies. So you can see here government is putting lot of efforts to make people aware about this water shortage problem, and there are some schemes to help them to improve this water availability. So now we talk about what are the various technologies for this water purification. So if you talk about nature is one of the most important, and they treat this wastewater which is coming through their natural system. So if you see there, this soil contains multiple layers. So depending on these soils are having porous media, these soils have carbon, so they absorb some of these pollutants, and then whatever the water is coming after because of rain, and that goes through various media to their in the groundwater. So that's how nature cleans whatever is being wastewater is there. But and at small scale we can see that at home you might have seen at rural area. So if you have some suspended particle in water, so you can use just filter out using cloth, you can boil it to again decontaminate some water. You can use some pots which are having this stones and then mixture of soil, you can just filter it out. There is a UV treatment, you might have seen at your home also, you have UV treatment system. So that again decontaminates some of the water pollutants. Then of course you can add some chemicals like bleaching powder, chlorine or the alum. So that again whatever the pollutants, water bodies, this carbon precipitate, you can precipitate them out and then you can clean the water. Again these are at small scale, so this already some of these technology you might have seen at your home. So now this table is just a comparison of various water purification technologies. So first one is biological filter. Most of the industries or academia institutes they use this biological treatment plant. So advantage here is you can have high load operation, but disadvantage here is it takes long processing time, 72 hours up to, and then of course you generate large amount of sludge during this process. Next is coagulation or flocculation. So here it's very simple, it can significantly reduce chemical oxidation demand, biological oxidation demand and TOC in your water bodies. So this mainly for organic pollutants. So you can add some chemicals, so those will precipitate out, but again in this process you will have increased sludge volume generation and low removal of arsenic. These are the various disadvantages. So the most common is adsorption or filtration. So this is highly effective and this has fast kinetics. It's an excellent ability to separate wide range of pollutants, but again disadvantage this year, adsorption is just non-destructive process. Again you have to change your adsorbent with time because the saturation happens and regeneration is very expensive. So those are the again disadvantages with adsorption process. Another is ozonation. Again here you generate ozone ion radicals, they treat water, so you can have high throughput, but again this is high energy and material intensive process, and then ability to mineralize organic pollutants is very limited. We have Fenton process, again you can treat some of the pollutants, but their high processing operating cost of these chemicals and iron sludge is produced, those are the disadvantages. So recently people are also focusing on advanced oxidation process, that is one is photocatalysis. So in this process, compared to other processes or technologies, you can have complete mineralization of organic pollutants, is efficiently degrade of these emerging pollutants. It is low operational and installation cost. You can use solar energy which is available free of cost, and in this process you will not generate any sludge. So at the end of the process you will just degrade everything, and then you can use same photocatalyst material multiple times. But here there are again challenges. This fast photo generated electron hole recombination is a major problem. I will discuss in the next slide. And again these are at research stage only. So there is lot of this area requires scale up challenges which has to be taken care before this technology can be brought into the market. So these are the some of the industries. So they talk about these water remediation technologies. This is Absolute Water. This is based in Delhi. You can see here. This they claim is to be 100% green water recovery, and this is first in India. So they have multiple layers of this on the tray. They have multiple beds. They use this vermiculture technology, and then whatever the sludge is generated, they convert it to organic manure. Another one is this Orobu technology. This is based in Bangalore. Again, this is a startup. They again absorb moisture or water from the air, and then they use it for the multiple purpose. So this water can be again released after using solar energy. So now we talk about some technologies which are in research generated from the research lab or industries in India. So this is CSIR, IICT. They again absorb this based on the absorption from the water from the air. So this moisture layer absorbed from the cold surface, and then they condense this, and then they collect it after this ozonation process. So water filter for home without electricity, Tata Swachh is very common, I think, example. So they again based on absorption principle. So this is gravity based purification system. They absorb, they use activated carbon along with nanoparticles of silver and to treat this wastewater. And other brands are canned Eureka Forbes and all. So apart from absorption, you have also other common technologies like RO, ultrafiltration plus RO plus UV system. So but again here challenges is you need to provide lot of energy. These are very expensive, and then you have to rechange with every time interval. So apart from industries, we have also some technologies coming from academia. So this arsenic is the major problem in West Bengal, this area, and this we have seen already the harmful effect of arsenic. So you can see this Professor T. Pradeep from IIT Madras, they have come up with some absorption based technology. They have used synthesized nanoparticle based on iron oxyhydroxide, and then this again adsorbent. So they adsorb arsenic. So they already some of these system they have already installed in nearby Chennai. And then Professor Sirsendu De from IIT Kharagpur, he also used this laterite soil. This laterite soil is having more iron oxide content, and they modified this surface modification, again they use as a adsorbent. So they also have installed this kind of setup along this West Bengal region. So apart from other institutes, IIT Kanpur also we have 3 technologies. These are some of the technologies again. So one technology is based on E. coli water testing kit, Professor Indrasekhar Sen, Professor Vishak Bhattacharya. Again this is just monitoring these various pollutants in the water bodies. Professor Vinod Tare, again he has developed the zero discharge toilet system. Again there they separate solid and liquid matter, and same liquid can be reused for cleaning purpose, flushing purpose, and then the solid they convert to organic manure. So these are the some technology based on adsorption system. So now we will talk about the some technologies or advanced oxidation process. So I already mentioned this photocatalysis is one of the advanced oxidation process. In this system you have a photocatalyst, that is a semiconductor material. It absorbs solar light or depending on what light source you have. So then this generates electron and hole pair. So these electron hole pair they should not recombine, otherwise the overall process will be reduced. So advantage here is they utilize light source, solar or UV. This is low operational cost, sludge treatment cost is not there. So these are the multiple chemical reactions happen. So during this process these free radicals they form hydroxyl radicals. So these hydroxyl radicals react with various organic pollutants and they release CO2 and water. So at the end you will see there is no secondary pollution. At the end you will have only gaseous products, those are being released. But here challenges are how you can tailor this semiconductor material so that this recombination process, life of excited electrons can be increased, and also the material should be chemically inert and should be reusable. and then you can change the band gap of the material so that you can go for the more visible light absorption of the system. So now I will talk about few minutes about what work we have done in this photocatalysis area. So we have focused on electrospinning technology to synthesize nanofibrous TiO2 membranes. So TiO2 is relatively non-toxic, low cost and stable material. So compared to nanoparticle, nanofibers have advantage, they don't agglomerate, and with time you can them separate easy out. So we have synthesized these TiO2 nanofibers, then we have synthesized these carbon nanodots from this waste material, that is a lemon peel. So these nanoparticles are smaller size, less than 5 nanometer. So we immobilize these these carbon dots on the surface of TiO2, and then the role of this carbon dot was to again transport this electron from the TiO2 so that this recombination can be reduced, and we use this for the degradation of dye, that is a methylene blue. And then you can see here that compared to only TiO2 fibers, we could see around 2.5 times enhancement in the performance. Apart from that also, this is based on UV light, because only role of carbon dot was just to transport electron from the TiO2. So we have later focused on how we can absorb more visible light spectrum. So you can see the solar spectra. So here the visible light is around 46% compared to UV, which is only 3%, and then less remaining is IR light. So we have modified this material. First one is we have synthesized this core cell nanoparticle, gold core and then on the top silver, and then we could vary their band gap, their absorption spectra, and then we immobilize these on the surface of TiO2 fiber, and then after we optimize the optimum silver thickness so that we could get the best optimum material, could show the increment in the performance. Apart from synthesizing other material, making their heterojunction, we also modified the same material with doping. So we doped with tantalum, and because of this doping they create defects inside this TiO2 system, and that helped to reduce the band gap and absorb more visible light spectrum. And we could see that optimum loading of 5%, we could see increased performance in the TiO2 nanofibers. So apart from TiO2, we also have focused on other low cost material like the bismuth oxycarbonate and then iron oxide heterojunction. So again, role was here to make heterojunction so that you can reduce this recombination process, and then we focused on these material because these are low cost and you can synthesize in bulk. So apart from understanding about the materials side and then checking their performance at small scale, we have also focused on continuous treatment of water. So here we focused on reactor engineering aspect so that we can treat this water in a continuous manner, because in industries or other water bodies you have large amount of water. Batch scale will not work, so you have to go for the continuous process. So we have focused on reactors. So here in this reactor system we have core cell kind of system. So here this cloth is there which is porous in nature, so they help to immobilize this photocatalyst, and this cloth is wrapped around this reactor system. In the core we have light source, so when light interacts with photocatalyst we have continuous process, and then we treat this wastewater. Apart from that also, this was focused on TiO2. Later we use same material to immobilize this carbon support, and then we again modified with this various bismuth oxycarbonate on activated carbon fiber and then iron oxide, and we could see that with it, without photocatalyst there was no decrement, but if you continuous operate with photocatalyst we could degrade this emerging pollutant. So here the focus was dyes, but here we have used antipyrine, that is an emerging pollutant. So this work has been appeared as a cover page article of these journals. So apart from this system, we also have this packed bed system. So here we synthesize this TiO2 microsphere. So these microsphere we modified so that their band gap can be reduced. So this is a packed bed system where we have this microsphere and then we have light source. So this is again a continuous system. We could see this with time we can reduce their amount of antipyrine in the solution. So these are the sum of the technologies on water side, water remediation side. Now so water remediation is one thing, but you have to also generate more water so that you can go for more generation of water. So now next few slides will focus on water production. So desalination is very important technology. So this you can see globally lot of industries, they are putting lot of plants in terms of desalination system. So in desalination we have two phases. First is pressure based system that uses reverse osmosis, and there is thermal based system. You basically heat the water and then you condense it. So out of these thermal system we have membrane distillation. So in this membrane distillation you have hot steam and cold side. So this we make this membrane so that only vapors pass through the membrane. So water doesn't pass. So these membranes are hydrophobic in nature, so that doesn't allow for water to pass through. So only vapors pass through the system when this hot steam is there, and then at the cold side these are collected. So we have fabricated this in-house desalination system, and this is a device, and we have also focused on fabricating this membrane system, so we could optimize or tailor depending on their processes condition, their contact angle, just to measure hydrophobicity. So this is a PVDF membrane, and we could see there in terms of flux, whatever water is generated is around 18 liter per meter square per hour. So this is similar or better than already available PVDF membrane in the market. Apart from desalination, so there is another technology called fog harvesting. So here there is major focus so that you can capture the fog, which is again available in environment. You can coalesce and transport. So you can again generate lot of water through the system. Already these are available or installed in Chile and Morocco in few years. But again, these are the simple system. So we are focusing on how we can modify these cloth structure or the whatever the support they have, so that we can increase this water collection area. So we are focusing now on how we can basically modify these surfaces, and then we can learn from nature. So these are the some nature available species. They do harvesting, fog collection through various mechanisms. So we have fabricated this in-house fog collection system, and then there is the preliminary data. So we use this bare coir surface that is again available at low cost. We deposited nanostructure like zinc oxide, and we could see this. After depositing this structure, we could tailor their hydrophobicity, and then we could modify their water collection efficiency. So apart from water generation, so lot of industries also now focusing on zero liquid discharge. So again, their here role is so that whatever the water is there in the system collected from the industries, they want to treat it in-house. So these are the various stages how this ZLD work. I will not discuss more in detail because of the time lag. So this is the overview of industrial ZLD system. You can see here whatever the wastewater is there, you optimize pre-treatment, then you do the concentration, and then you get the salt. So some of these ZLD system are already installed in academia, like IIT Madras. They have 4 million liter per day kind of capacity, and they are whatever the water is generated in-house, they are cleaning it and using for the IIT Madras campus. IIT Hyderabad also, they have this based on this biological treatment units. They focus on membrane bioreactor technology, and they are also treating wastewater. This is generated in-house. So now this is about what we have. So now just to conclude, so you can see this Mahatma Gandhi quote. So the earth, land and water are not an important heritage from the forefather, but on loan from our children. So it's our responsibility to hand over whatever we got earlier from our ancestors. So to have this one, so to have the objective of having potable water for all, we have to focus on disruptive technology, which is having low energy consumption, having low cost material, and of course this can be scalable. And then we have to come from the government side, policy intervention, so that there is no wastage or over usage of water, so that we can, there are some schemes from the government. So again, they are helping to get some policy intervention. So that is also required from the government side. From our side, we have to go for judicial management. We should not waste water. We should not decontaminate the water. Like for industry, they should not dispose all these pollutants in the river bodies. So this is our responsibility to come up. And these are the grand challenges which I think for the water next area, we have to develop low cost water quality measurement device. We have to have smart water management system for the irrigation field, so that we don't overuse the water, which is again very scarce in nature. And then we have to develop technologies. So one technology will not be enough. We have to come up with the combination of technology depending on what is the feed quality of the water. And then after this water is there, then we should be able to reuse some of this water. So with this I conclude. I thank my students who have put lot of efforts in getting some of these results, and the funding agency for funding some of these ideas. And finally, I thank you all for listening patiently to me. I'll be happy to answer if any question. Thank you.